Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Third Inning Podcast. I am your host, Izzy Rain, and today is somewhat of a bittersweet episode because it is the last episode for this season. I'm obviously going to be coming back in spring training of next year, but we're not going to talk about that. That's not the first thing we're going to talk about. We're talking about that later. So our first thing we're talking about is obviously the postseason and who is going to the World Series and whatnot. So I told you all about my bracket. My bracket, the NL side, was completely broken. It got broke the first night of the playoffs when the Nats beat Milwaukee. So the Nats played LA. They beat LA. And while that was going on, we had the Cardinals playing the Braves, and the Cardinals beat the Braves. So then for NLCS was the Cardinals and the Nationals, and the Washington Nationals swept the St. Louis Cardinals. Therefore, the Nationals are going to the World Series for the National League. Now, I think about this a lot. It'd be really weird if the Nationals were in the American League. Like, I'm glad the Nationals are in the National League. That's just personal, whatever. So, my bracket was supposed to have, I had Milwaukee against LA, and then Atlanta against LA, and then LA going to the World Series and LA winning. Because the times when I don't have the Dodgers winning, they do. Because last year I had everything on my bracket right, except I had the Brewers beating the Dodgers and the Brewers going to the World Series, and obviously they didn't go to the World Series. So that was the only thing I had wrong with my bracket last year. So moving on to the American side of my bracket, which it did quite well, actually. So for the wild card game, it was Tampa against Oakland, and I had Tampa winning, and Tampa did win. So Tampa went on to play the Houston Astros, and I had Houston winning, and that they did. So then we had the Twins and the Yankees playing. And I'm pretty sure the Yankees swept them. I may be wrong. I know I'm not supposed to say things if I don't know, so I'm sorry. I'm going to try not to do that next season. So we had the Yankees and the Astros playing, and I had people, several people were being like, oh, this is where your bracket's going to break. And they were right. But I mean, my bracket technically broke on the first wildcard game, but it's okay. So I had the Yankees beating the Astros and having the Yankees play the Dodgers, but that did not happen. Houston is going to the World Series once again, and they will be playing the Washington Nationals. This is the first time the Nationals are going to the World Series, so every team in MLB has been to the World Series now, except the Seattle Mariners, my OG team, my childhood team. My first ever MLB game was at Safeco Field in Seattle. The Mariners and Padres interleague action. I know, crazy. So the bracket is broken, and we have the Astros and the Nationals going to the World Series against each other. And again, I didn't expect that at all. I mean, I can see Houston, but the Nationals, I didn't see that coming at all. Now, if you're curious of who I want to win, I want the Nationals to win. Now, you may be like, why do you want the Nationals to win? They beat your team. Well, when I play Fortnite or any game, I'm like, a game where you die, I want the person who killed me in Fortnite to go on and win the game so I didn't die for nothing. So that's how I am with baseball. I don't want the team who beat me to just go on and get beat, because then I lost for nothing. So I do want the Nationals to win the 2019 World Series. So now we are going to be going over some things that just happened in baseball this week that some have to do with the postseason and some don't. So I do have a stat for y'all, and this is coming from MLB themselves, so it's official. And it's with the loss in Game 6, this is the first decade since the 1910s that the Yankees did not win at least one pennant. So, kind of crazy, 100 years since that happened. And this will be the Astros going to the World Series. The last time they went to the World Series was their first time winning a World Series. So the teams that we have going are pretty young teams. Not like, you know what I mean, as in they're newer teams. I know the Astros have been around like since the 60s, I think. Again, I'm sorry that I don't know the exact date. I know the Nationals came about in 2005. But those are relatively new teams compared to some of the other teams in baseball that have been around since the 1800s, literally Victorian times. So that's kind of crazy that these are teams that nobody, at least as I said, the Nationals, nobody really thought of them going. I saw a thing on Facebook a few days ago, and it was in May, the percentage chance that they had of actually going, and it was very, very small. I mean, I think it was less than 10. Again, I can't say I think. But that's crazy, because with baseball, people say the sport is boring. It is not boring. They are just not intelligent people, to be honest with you. Because our postseason is different literally every year. It's not the same teams unless in the playoffs. Yeah, there's maybe one or two, but I mean, I can't tell you how many teams are in the playoffs. We don't have the Patriots going to the Super Bowl every single year. We don't have the Golden State Warriors going to the championship every single year. Yeah, we had the Dodgers 2 years in a row, but now look, they got out in their first series. So it's always different, and I think something that is so good about this sport that in other sports you don't see it. Like, as I told you, in football and basketball, it's usually the same teams going to the championship, and that is boring, to be honest. I'm a Golden State Warriors fan. I've watched championships like almost every year, basically. So it's good to have something different every year in baseball, unlike you have in other sports. Yeah. So, a little funny thing. Did y'all see Joe Buck Sucks? I actually was not really watching the game. I could hear the game, but I wasn't watching, so I was just listening. But I walked in just to see whatever the score was. I think I was going to get food in the kitchen or something, and I walked by the TV, and it was Bregman at bat. So I was just like, I'll watch that bat, see what happens. And this man behind home plate, he lifts up his sweatshirt or jacket, and his shirt says Joe Buck Sucks. And I'm like, that guy is an American hero. It was so funny, and I'm so happy that that happened when I was walking through, because I agree, Joe Buck sucks. But that's something we can agree on. Oh yeah, how we were talking about the Nationals' chance of winning a pennant. It is 0.1%. So now we're talking about just a news story that happened this week, and that is Joe Madden has signed to be the manager for the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Why they're called the Los Angeles Angels, I don't know. I do know it's marketing reasons, but still, it's stupid. So he is going back to Anaheim to be the coach there. We talked about in the last podcast of where he would go. There were talks of him going possibly to the Mets, going back to the Angels like he did. Nobody knew, but he did go back to the Angels. So another reason for me to hate the Angels. Yeah. Okay, so now for the last segment of the podcast, we are going to be talking about next season, what my plans for next season are. So we started this podcast the first week they started playing spring training games. Not the first week spring training started, but the first week they started doing games. And I plan on doing the same for next season. I don't know the exact date or anything yet, but it'll be that week, and I'm very excited. We're already kind of starting to plan where we're going to be going for spring training, what teams we're going to be seeing. I'm not going to say any of that on the podcast yet because I don't know for a fact. and it's subject to change. I don't know what I'm doing for a fact. I never know till a couple months before. I mean, it's a couple months before now, but I'm saying like 2 months away. I don't know. So probably coming up in December, January, even February. I don't know what I'm doing. And I mean, I have teams in mind who I want to see. I only have teams in mind, but I'm not giving any hints away or anything like that. But I am going to be making merch. Now, I don't know if I'm actually going to sell it because the podcast is the thing that gets the least amount of views on my channel, and that is completely okay because I do this for me. But I am going to make merchandise for my family at least, and maybe my friends will any. I have the design in my mind already, and I'm going to work with a company that I've done stuff with before. But the shirts are going to be orange or blue. I'm going to make some because my dad will not wear orange. So his is going to be blue. I'm going to wear an orange one. So I have that all in mind. Especially it's going to be the logo that we have now. And put that on a shirt and just a few other things. Messing around with that. As I said, I'm very excited about it. But yes, so next season, for the first half of the season, we did every week, and then for the second half after the All-Star game, we did every other week. Now, I don't know what I'm going to be doing going into next season, if I'm going to do that same thing, or maybe just do every other week, because I feel like when we got into the dog days of summer, there wasn't much to talk about. When we're in the first part of the season, we're talking about who's going where, how everybody is starting out, and then when we get to the end of the season, it's like we've been here since February. It's August now. There's not much to talk about anymore. So I don't know if we will be doing the every other week or if we will be doing every week. I'm really not sure. But that has been the Third Inning Podcast. I'm leaving it on a bit of a mystery of who will win the World Series. We'll find out in a couple weeks, couple days. I'm not sure. It depends how long they take. How many games they have to play. But that will be Tuesday at 8 p.m. on multiple. It's if you're in Houston, you have certain channels. If you're in DC, you have certain channels. So I'm not positive on what TV channels you can see it on, but you can see it there. I've enjoyed talking about my favorite sport with y'all this season, and I cannot wait for MLB 2020. Bye, guys.